Okay. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Digital Nomads World Weekly Lecture. I'm Becky, and I'm going to be the host. And today we're going to be talking with Tarek Kholoussy from Nomads Giving Back about how we can have a positive impact when we travel. Welcome to Digital Nomad World, Tarek.
Hey, thanks so much for having me. Appreciate being here.
Thank you so much. Tarek, I'm so curious to hear about your background and first of all, like how you became a digital nomad.
Yeah, sure, absolutely. Well, I'm talking to you here from Mama Bali. Just turned midnight, and I did have a little coffee right before this, so that way I'll have some energy to make it through. I actually started my nomad journey 9 years ago, but before that, I was more of a suit and tie corporate kind of guy. Even though I don't look like it now, I turned into a hippie on my journey. And um, yeah, I was born and raised in the States. I kind of fell into that whole heading to New York City after college, joined one of those big companies, and did that for like a dozen years. And along the way, I found myself craving more purpose in my life, more meaning, more adventure, more international life. And I was really feeling called to travel in the developing world. And then a few serendipitous moments happened all around the same time in 2013, and combined, that kind of gave me the energy to take that leap into the unknown, buy that one-way ticket, and become a nomad.
Oh, wow. I would love to go deeper on that. Like I know a lot of nomads, they continually travel around the world. They go basically from one co-working space to another. And I feel like they don't make a lot of deep connections with the local community. What made you want to take things one step further and start something like Nomads Giving Back?
Yeah, great question. Well, at the time, I was, like I said, craving more meaning in my life, and I started using my vacation times to go travel to get as far as I could from New York City corporate life. And I don't mean just geographically, I mean culturally, socioeconomically. So I started using my vacation time to volunteer in places around the world, like Zambia, Kenya, China, Sri Lanka. And when I would come back to the US on that Monday morning in the office, I felt really alive up until that point. I felt like I really connected with not just the locals in the communities, but also the foreigners that were more like-minded and wanted to make a difference. And I felt like I made more of a difference in that 1 week than I did the rest of the year. And yeah, when you kind of like just trust your intuition about what feels right, and that life at that time, I felt like I was swimming upstream. And when I was, in the field in the developing world and feeling more purpose in my life, it just resonated more. And that was kind of, they say like trust your heart when you make decisions because you know more than you think.
Oh, yeah. How did you first find those opportunities for yourself when you started going to those developing countries and volunteering?
Yeah, I mean, it felt very well. For one, I just felt more. I felt more alive. I felt more connected, both with other people, but with my inner self. And it's that feeling of when you're on the right track in your life, somehow your intuition just kind of tells you that, okay, this is right for you. And even though it's hard sometimes to make decisions that social norms and the conditioning of, like, at the time for me, I was very much need to go climb the corporate ladder, need to increase my financial success and stability, need to get that respect. And sometimes when you're climbing a ladder on a wall and you're climbing, and then you see a ladder on another wall, you're like, oh, that looks good, but I'm so high up, I don't want to go all the way back down and start all over. But this concept of like sunk costs and opportunity costs of not doing something you really want to do, at some point, if you're heading in the wrong direction, like I was, you got to turn around and know that that's still on the right path.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. What kind of things were you doing when you were volunteering in Kenya
In
and Zambia
the
and places
beginning,
like that?
yeah, yeah, good question. So a few times I joined Habitat for Humanity and did house builds, like I did in Zambia and in China. In Kenya and Sri Lanka, I did consulting for social enterprises. Specifically in Kenya, I joined this amazing organization for 4 months, full time it was called Kiva, Kiva, and they're a microfinance lending platform where, like I see Jack and Evan and Ricardo and Amachai on the call. So like if each of them lent, not donated, but lent $25, they can crowdsource that loan to someone named Mary, who's a farmer in Kenya, so she can buy 2 cows for $300, just for example. And then over the next 2 or 3 years, Mary will credit your account, will pay you like a couple dollars a month until the $25 is paid back. And then we can recycle that loan or take it back. And it's a really cool concept of knowing that like if we all pull together, we're stronger together. And a creative way to connect with someone who you would never normally connect to, but know that you played a positive difference in their life.
Wow, I like how you had such a variety of experiences, which I'm sure helped lead up to Nomads Giving Back. So can we talk about how that started and how you started building your team for that? Because on the website, I can see there's a lot of team members involved now.
Yeah, thanks. It's an incredible team around the world. So it all sort of started along that journey when I started backpacking and doing some volunteering. I knew that, I had prioritized my professional life way more than my personal life and my well-being. And so I used those first couple of years of travel to not just to do some volunteering projects, but also I wanted to learn and just, catch up on all the things I missed out on. So I did a lot of like exploring, reading. I got more into wellness. I got into running marathons wherever I went. Um, and then along the way, I found myself in places like where I am now, Bali, where these like so-called nomads were living back in 2016. And I went to these things called co-working hubs, that were a new concept for me. And I felt like really inspired by this nomad movement because these were people like me that were leaving the conventional life behind, facing their fears, chasing down their dreams, often creating something. And they're also staying longer periods of time than my backpacking days. And, I was tired of having that first conversation 100 times. And I wanted to have that 100th conversation with the same person, and just build deeper relationships and build my community. And so this nomad movement really resonated with me. And I knew I wanted to get more into social impact. And so I'd often ask people, these nomads, how do you connect with locals and how do you get back to these communities? And most of the time I hear the same thing. I don't know. But if you figure it out, let me know because I want to do the same thing. So when I heard that enough times, I recognized that there's this gap and opportunity to try to mobilize the whole nomad movement. We're a collection of individuals. We're not like part of some massive large company that has a centralized corporate social responsibility department where if you wanted to volunteer something or donate or fundraise, they have these partnerships, they have these relationships. And since we are a collection of individuals, who's going to take that lead? There's no organization around it. And so I saw like there's this opportunity and one interesting detail along the way was when I was in Bali and about 4 years ago, I joined this amazing experience called the Bali Hope Ultra. And that was Bali's first ultra marathon running from the top to the bottom for 84 kilometers, all for the intent to raise $100,000 to put 100 kids through school. And the 13 of us did it. And I think we raised about $82,000. And it was just such a beautiful experience of what happens when you come together with a specific purpose, bigger than ourselves. And that really kind of inspired me to create Nomads Giving Back, along with like all the experiences I had. So really the mission is to really inform, inspire, and empower you to get back to the communities that you call home away from home. And we do this through volunteering efforts, through fundraising, and supporting social causes, as well as volunteering. One of our flagship programs is that we have a free volunteer matching program. So if you're inspired to give back and you don't know where to start, please come to us and we'll help you match with a cause that you're passionate about. And you mentioned that our team, yes, along the way, I started this as a social enterprise, meant to be like a revenue generating business. that has a social impact. And along the way, when people started saying, I love what you're doing, I want to support you. And I said, you know what, actually, we don't really have paid roles at the time. They're like, oh, no, 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 I want to just support. I'll volunteer. I have web design skills. I have graphic design. I have social media skills. And then we just kind of like built this global team around the world. Now we have more than 100 volunteers and ambassadors that are all somehow playing a part in supporting our mission.
Wow, that's incredible. And that had to be such an honor when people came to you and offered their skills. And then you've
About
gone on to create, yeah, that volunteer matching program to just continue that right along. I'm curious. So I know you're based in Bali, and I'm imagining quite a few of the team members are in Bali. Have you been able to, I guess, expand this program to places, for example, like Chiang Mai or Bansko, Bulgaria, that now have quite a large population of nomads that are there for longer periods of time, like you'd mentioned?
Yes, yes, exactly. As a matter of fact, we started Nomads Giving Back in Medellin, Colombia, almost 4 years ago. That's
Okay.
where I was living at the time. And I hired my first teammate, Manuela, who helped me build it from scratch. And she's not just with the team now, but she's also our chief of staff, who became a nomad herself and moved to Bali about 8 months ago. And your hunch is right. We do have a good representation here in Bali. We have about 30 people, about half foreigners and half local Indonesians, which is very helpful because if we want to serve as a bridge between the locals and the foreigners, then it's great to be the bridge. And so we have a great base and hub in Medellin, where we have a lot of relationships with social causes. We've had a good 20, 30, maybe 40 events there. And then we had events in about 11 or 12 countries around the world. Probably actually more now, because sometimes I forget that we're having events when I'm not there. Like, for example, you mentioned Bansko. It just so happened that we happen to have about 5 or 6 volunteers on our team that were there, as well as a few partners and many, many good friends. And so they organized a giving back panel where our 5 of our ambassadors and panelists were there. So really what we're trying to do is just be helping to be one of the leading social impact voices for the movement. And a lot of these conferences reach out to us for helping us, for us to help them inspire their community to be more socially conscious and to give back locally.
Wow. Can you tell us more about the Nomad, the skills that you might hear from someone who's applying to the Nomads Giving Back program? What
Yeah,
kind of skills would a volunteer have?
yeah, great question. When sometimes I think when people think of the word volunteering, we often gravitate towards like building a home, for the homeless, or painting walls, and those have a lot of merits and values, especially if it's done in the right way with the right causes. But what I really love about what we're about, both through our volunteer matching program where we're supporting our partners, but also for our own organization, is that we're tapping into people's higher level skills that are usually more digital. Digital nomads typically have digital skills, and we're operating in a digital remote world. And so the most common skills, both for our partners as well as for our own organization, has to do with digital marketing, like all types of social media, copywriting for newsletters, a lot of like graphic design and web design, even like strategy and finance and more like operational type things, a lot of project management. A lot of our partners are looking for support on their fundraising campaigns. What's interesting is that a lot of these really inspiring change makers are really good at what they do and they're really passionate about their cause. But they're so humble. I mean, that's why they're creating a social cause. And so sometimes they're not as out there on the marketing, or sometimes they're scared of digital marketing. I had a friend who's leads a cause here in Bali. We were on a panel a month ago, and he said, like, I'm scared of Instagram. I don't know this stuff, and he's like, so he loves it when people can support him and help raise awareness of the causes. And especially when they're locally led. A lot of times they're not sure how to connect with the foreigners. Like they're not necessarily like walking in the same social circles And so that's where I really love to help out, is helping to bridge that gap. Because let's be honest, like a lot of us nomads and foreigners and around the world, not necessarily intentionally, but the path of least resistance is that we form these expat nomad bubbles. You know, we're going to the gyms and the cafes and the co-working hubs that often don't have local representation. And there's a few reasons for that. Sometimes it's language, sometimes it's cultural. I think the biggest barrier is usually socioeconomic, that, the places that might not seem too expensive to some of us are quite expensive to the local income bracket. So it's really important that we're mindful of, if we're organizing something, to try to be more inclusive, specifically financially and language wise, but also where we're going. And that's where I think is one of the hidden advantages of volunteering, is that that's how you can often get connected to local communities, learn a lot more about the culture, and everybody wins, because we benefit from these places, and how great it would be to like feel that impact when you're helping others.
Oh yeah, I think it's, when you are on the ground and you start hearing from these voices that are local, you find out sometimes what they really need for the community, and that's where you can really give the most help.
Exactly.
I also noticed that you have a Nomad Skillshare program on your website. Can you tell us more about that?
Yeah, sure. So as I shared, like we did a lot of advocacy along the way, like raising awareness of social causes. And at some point, we realized we would love to have more of a direct impact. And like I just shared about those socioeconomic barriers, what is the difference between someone like you and me sitting at a cafe ordering our second or third cappuccino for $3, and the waiter or waitress who might only earn that in a day? And oftentimes it's skills. It can be language skills sometimes, but even when they speak, say, English, um, it's the digital skills that can really increase your income drastically, because then you can enter this global market of opportunities. Um, and what do most digital nomads have? We have skills. That's how we're able to work location independently. Um, and I think it's great when people can optimize their skills and resources by giving back in that way, because it can have, I can paint a wall, which is great and fine, but I can't paint a wall as good as a local person who does it often, for example. Um, and I'm not as efficient. But if I can offer some advanced skill that might cost 20, 30, 50, $100 an hour, that's giving back in an exponential way. Um, and so I also met a lot of nomads that are craving more connection, craving more meaning in their lives. Um, or that they want to develop skills, and so the idea of Nomad Skillshare is really to create this community of people that want to share their skills, both with fellow nomads and anyone around the world. Um, and so we offer these courses and workshops and master classes that help people learn the skills to live the life they imagined. While doing so, we have a positive impact by offering a scholarship program. We have a buy one, give one scholarship program. So whenever someone buys a course, we give a scholarship to a less privileged student. Oftentimes we'll find someone who wants to like sponsor a student. And we have this online community. We do some things in person, some things online. And our goal really is to help also the teachers, the instructors that have a skill they want to share with the world, raise more awareness of the great work that they're doing. At the same time, have them help support a social enterprise through teaching their skill. And they always love the buy one, give one program. So that way they can actually get back through their main skill.
I love that. I love that piece of it. How long are these classes typically?
Yeah, so we have master classes, workshops, and courses. The master classes are usually about an hour. Our last one was a few weeks ago, where we talked about, our head of strategy, Mate, talked about how to create a website with no coding, for example. Um, and our workshops are like 2 to 4 hours, and our courses, we have 4 currently, and we're going to continue to grow a marketplace through partnerships. We created our first 3 ourselves, and those are 10-hour self-paced courses. where we also have an online community platform, so it can be more engaging than a typical like Udemy download kind of thing. And there are courses like how to get your dream online job, how to become a social media manager, how to become a virtual assistant, solopreneurship bootcamp. We're about to bring one on in the coming days about managing money as an entrepreneur. Um, and we're just going to continue to expand.
Are these all offered in English?
Yes.
Only in
Yeah. So
English?
it's a great question. We're often asked about if we can perhaps translate it into different languages. We're still quite early in our journey, so efficiency wise or niche market wise, English is the one that we're really focusing on. But I would love to become more inclusive and offer classes in different languages in the future.
Yeah, it almost seems like a local would take the course and then they could teach it as almost a workshop at the local level, at least at first, like you said, starting out small.
Exactly, exactly. I mean, one of the reasons why we're focusing on English as well is that we're, there's a saying: if you give a man a fish, he'll eat for a day. If you teach him how to fish, he'll eat forever. Um, but there's also the step after that about taking them to the lake. And that's in my analogy, it's kind of like, how do you get a job then? Um, and so a lot of the jobs that we have a jobs board and we have a lot of relationships where sometimes we can help people out, get jobs through us. Um, and those jobs tend to be English speaking because our core community are English speaking and a lot of the jobs are in English. So like if someone's looking for a social media manager, they're more likely to get a higher paid job in English. So we need to focus on a niche and get it right before we can actually like broaden it too much. But I look forward to that.
That would be great. I can't wait for that. So if I was a nomad hoping to make a bigger impact on the local community, and let's say I was in a place that was not already big in the nomad scene, where would you suggest I start? Like, what is the first step you might recommend? And then maybe I'm thinking I'll bring it to you later and start building relationships with Nomads Giving Back.
So you're saying in a place that we're not currently in?
Yeah, how would you recommend to first make that impact in the community and the first step to getting to know the locals better if I was still on
Yeah.
my own and didn't have any organization that I was aware of?
So that's a good question. One of the things we used to do, haven't done one in a while, but actually have workshops on how to give back abroad. And what I love to do is that there's these like quizzes online. One of them is all about the sustainable development goals, and it's like a 5-minute quiz that you fill out, and then it tells you what's your most precious sustainable development goal. Like, are you most passionate about the ocean, or women's equality, or education, or poverty? And then so I would encourage people to either reflect on this or have it, or go find one of those quizzes, and find out one or two things that you're passionate about. And then I would also think about what kind of skill do you want to offer? Do you want to offer one that you're really good at already? Like if you're a website developer, do you want to build websites? Or sometimes people are saying, I do that for money, I do that for work, I actually want to develop a new skill. Um, so I would think of the cause, the type of cause, the skill, and the location. Um, and then honestly, like you just start doing research, have fun with it, go to a cafe, spend a couple hours like getting lost in the web of like Google and Facebook groups and reaching out to your friends in the places and ask them if they know anyone who knows anyone who knows anyone. And then, just kind of make it into a little project, and start reaching out. I think it'd be amazing sometimes people I hear like go to a cause's website and their website developer, and they're like, oh my God, they're missing out on so much SEO potential if they just do this. Or they go to their social media account and there's like 10 taboos that they shouldn't be doing that could have helped their visibility and impact. And often like just you can reach out even if there isn't some sort of marketing role, marketed role. I do think it's very important to always be mindful of remaining humble, that a lot of times things are the way they are for a reason that might not be obvious to you. Um, so, when that volunteer arrangement starts, I think it's really important to like listen and listen and listen before start talking. And any sort of commitment that you might make, honor it. It can be like almost detrimental to get engaged, take their time, they kind of onboard you, set you up, and then you don't follow through on a project. And depending on the project, it's important to think about capacity building. What happens when you leave? So trying to do something in a way where it can be handed over back to the organization and internalized rather than becoming a dependent on you. And yeah, so those are just a couple quick tips that I think is important on the effectiveness on volunteering, because we all have the best intentions, and it's important that we try to optimize our involvement with these valuable causes.
Yeah, those are all such great tips. Thank you for sharing that. So, what does the future look like for Nomads Giving Back?
Yeah, I'm excited to see too. We're always evolving, growing, trying new things. I would love to continue to evolve our organization in a way that, let's say, Ricardo here, that's here, and Evan, if they wanted to volunteer, if they wanted to do something, that we can really support them so that they can help others. I mean, our tagline is inspire yourself, inspire the world. And I really believe in the power of virtuous cycles, where it becomes like this supportive mechanism where if you help others, it'll help you. And so you really to make it easier for people when they say, I want to get back and I don't know how, to create deeper connections cross-culturally. Because I think, the most meaningful moments in my life was when I was giving back in a community that normally I wouldn't be in, and that I benefited so much from. So, more specifically, I would love to have different hubs around the world where we had representatives of our team, like community leaders. And like you mentioned, Chiang Mai, it's been on my list for a while. I had beautiful times there. And I love the Thai people. And there's a lot of need there as well. So like to have a few community leaders there that are hosting events, having projects, building our volunteer matches, teaching skills, and really, be that social conscious voice for the nomad movement.
That would be amazing. I know as a nomad myself and talking with other nomads, it's always one of those missing pieces when you're on the road. Like, how can I volunteer? Because it's something we would definitely try and do if we were at home in our like base places or our home countries. So I think that would be amazing to have in the future.
Yeah, thank you. I totally agree. And one of the unexpected benefits, a little unexpected, is our team and our community ourselves. Like there's so many beautiful relationships that are coming out of this. Like people, like two of our teammates met and worked a little bit together, and they went off and created their own social enterprise in Uganda. Um, Others are like supporting each other on their business opportunities and their entrepreneurial efforts. And it's really great because of this, people with certain types of values, when they find, their tribe or their community, they can actually really accelerate their personal journeys and where they want to head by being around those similar values. And they're meeting like all over the world. And, like sometimes we work remotely like this for a couple of years, and then we meet in person for the first time. And it's a lot of fun. So that's the best thing about, I think what we created is this sense of camaraderie and connection among the team.
Oh, I bet. I bet coming back to Medellin or Bali is like a homecoming for these people who've been
Exactly.
involved.
You're
I have
so
a
right.
question. I have a question from the audience for you, Tarek, as well. So, have you
Great.
thought of working on a larger scale, like with governments or municipalities, to have an even greater impact?
100%. Yes. I have had some discussions with the Teachers Association of Indonesia, um, and we're continuing to explore if we can collaborate in a bigger way. I had a few conversations with government representations in Argentina. We did do a collaboration in Colombia with the government on a language exchange for a few days. So there's opportunity to expand that as well. And it's interesting because I think we all know probably on this call, but it's still new. It's not just the digital nomad world movement and world, but also these digital nomad visas and things like the governments are now paying attention to the nomad movement and competing for talent in this new remote world that we're in. So I think that we are well positioned to help some of these governments connect more with the nomad movement and creating those relationships. I think with our giving back um, mission, it may be more attractive to some of these countries as well, because not everyone has the most positive perception of digital nomads. And I think as countries start to attract them, they also have to worry a bit about their people and how they're perceiving what their government's doing. So I'm hopeful that governments will continue to welcome the nomad movement, but also in a way that is taking care of its own people and looking for ways for the nomad movement to directly help their populations.
Oh yeah, so important. I have a question from Evan as well. How do you evaluate the most effective ways to use your time and money to improve local communities? Is there a framework that you guys use to choose between the different cause areas or organizations to work with? Good question, Evan.
That is a great question, Evan. Thanks. So we our primary mission for the first couple of years was really advocacy, like raising awareness of social causes. And so what we would do is we just started doing it the old fashioned way by like reaching out to people and having coffees and meetings, and then it would evolve to co-hosting events and workshops and skill shares, and doing like impact trips. And we worked with a small team, especially in the beginning. So a lot of it was just me or my team going out and doing these things. And then along the way, like I said, we wanted to have more of a direct impact. So we got more into skill sharing. So the question is a good one. We haven't done like a ton of direct variety of impact projects. We're usually supporting other people's or other organizations. And I think it's really important to when you go to a new market to ask around and qualify through people's reputations, because I'll give you an example. Someone reached out to me a few weeks ago that wanted me to, in our organization, to support them doing fundraising and vouch for them. And it seemed like they had the best intentions, but I can tell that this one was a little riskier. That it wasn't locally led. It wasn't, their primary purpose as their business to do this project. And I just didn't feel comfortable enough to, vouch for it. And then sometimes it's much, much clearer based on their years of existence, their leadership team, their relationships and their reputation in the local community. So yeah, a lot of it has to do with vetting and going through the process of evaluation on which ones would have the most impact. And the other thing too is it's not like every collaboration is at its highest level. So it's easier to do a light collaboration first, see how it goes, see how the relationship goes, see how the impact actually is making an impact before making a bigger and bigger collaboration.
Yeah, I think that's a great place to start. So I have a question now. If people want to follow you or join Nomads Giving Back, where can they go?
Yeah, amazing. So we always welcome new people to either join us, our team, our community, share their skills through us at Nomad Skillshare. So our two websites are nomadsgivingback.com and nomadskillshare.com. So you're welcome to check them out. Our social media handles are the same. And people are welcome. I always love connecting with new people. So you're welcome to reach out to me on LinkedIn or Instagram. LinkedIn is just my name, Tarek Kholoussy. I imagine it'll be written somewhere. And my Instagram is tarek.world. And I would love to hear from you guys and hopefully meet you one day.
Yeah, we'd love to meet you too. It'd be nice to meet you in Bali as well.
Yeah,
Well,
yeah.
thank you so much for joining us today, Tarek. And thank you everyone for joining us on the call today. We will be here again at the same time next week, talking with someone who has started their own nomad community and is now going to many communities around the world, Gonzalo Hall. So please join us next week. And
And
thank you again, Tarek.
I highly recommend you check Gonzalo out. He's a dear friend of mine. We're actually talking tomorrow. He's one of our ambassadors. I'm a big fan of what he's doing, and he's one of those really socially conscious leaders in the movement that I'm so happy to have him support our mission. And yeah, thanks so much for having me today. It was really good to talk to you, and I'm really impressed and admire the great work of Digital Nomads World. So thanks so much for having me.
Thank you. And like I said, we're all going to see you in Bali, I hope, and start giving back.
Yes, please do.